Welcome back. You've really outdone yourself this time, huh? This collection of AI news and discussions is something else. Things have felt a little quiet in the AI world these past few weeks, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's been strangely quiet.
Yeah,
But you know what they say, right? Sometimes the most interesting stuff happens, when the noise dies down a bit.
I like that. And this AI news summary you've put together, it's a perfect example. Pulling from all those little corners of the internet, Discord, Twitter, Reddit. It's like we're getting a sneak peek at the future. You know what I mean?
It's amazing what people are building and sharing these days.
It really is. And speaking of sneak peeks, the first thing that caught my eye, the hardware. It's getting seriously powerful, and what's crazy is it's becoming more affordable, too.
It's an interesting time to be following hardware, that's for sure. AMD is really stepping up its game, huh? That new MI325X GPU they've got coming out,
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
256 gigabytes of memory. That's wild. They're going right after NVIDIA, which is going to be fun to watch.
256 gigabit. I mean, come on, that's like having a supercomputer from, like, 10 years ago sitting on your desk. But you know what did give me a little bit of a heart attack? All this talk about the pricing on those NVIDIA RTX 5000 cards.
Yeah, I hear you. Those things are beasts, but man, they come with a hefty price tag. But here's the thing. Competition is usually a good thing for consumers.
For our wallet, you mean?
Exactly. It shakes things up, and often that means better prices for everyone. Imagine what smaller companies, independent researchers, even just like AI hobbyists could do with that kind of power, right? It could really change the game.
Level the playing field a little bit, maybe, so it's not just the big companies calling all the shots.
Now, that is a really interesting question. And it's not just the hardware that's changing the game. We've got this whole open source movement gaining serious momentum, too.
Right. Open source is where it's at. We've got Mistral, Nemo, Minitron 8B. Ari is doing some really interesting stuff with multimodal AI. And don't even get me started on GPT Neo X. It just keeps getting better.
It really does. It's a testament to what's possible when you have transparency and collaboration. What blows me away is that these open source models aren't just playing catch up anymore. They're actually surpassing some of the big closed source models in certain areas, and that's huge.
I know. And it shows you don't need to be a giant corporation to make a real impact. Did you see that story about the developers who managed to fine-tune Llama 7B on a single GPU?
No way.
A single 16 GB GPU. That just blows my mind.
See, that's what I love about the open source community, the ingenuity. You give these people limited resources and they find a way. They always find a way. Speaking of pushing boundaries, we've got to talk about OpenAI's O1 model. Everyone's trying to figure out how it works. It's like the holy grail right now.
It really is. I mean, it's like
Right.
everyone's trying to reverse engineer a magic trick.
Right. Only this magic trick could, change the world.
Exactly. Especially because OpenAI is being so secretive about it.
Well, they're not exactly known for being open books, are they?
No, not really. I mean, have they even released a research paper on O1 yet?
Not that I've seen, which makes it even more impressive that people are even attempting to replicate it. Think about it to try to decipher something that complex without any kind of blueprint. That's bold. But there are always little hints out there, right? Like all those whispers about journey learning, for instance.
Journey learn. Yeah, what is that, by the way?
Well, it's this idea that O1 learns in a very different way than other models. Instead of being explicitly taught everything, it kind of learns through trial and error.
Interesting.
Right. It's like giving a kid a bunch of Legos and saying, go build something amazing without giving them any instructions.
And somehow they figure it out.
Yeah.
Just like O1.
Exactly. It's figuring it out. And what's even more interesting is that it's learning how to learn more effectively. Like
Yeah.
it's constantly getting better at solving problems it's never even seen before. It's wild.
So it's not just intelligent. It's becoming more intelligent all the time, all on its own.
Yeah.
That's both amazing and a little bit, I don't know,
A little bit wet.
a little bit spooky, Ray. I
Yeah.
mean, where does it end?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just about replicating O1 for the sake of it. It's about understanding those underlying principles, unlocking new techniques that could be applied across the board. It's like, imagine finding this hidden doorway in your house, and it leads to a whole new wing you never knew existed.
And it's full of amazing, possibly slightly terrifying technology.
Maybe. But seriously, the implications of unlocking O1 secrets go way beyond just the technical stuff.
It's true. I mean, think about it. OpenAI's decision to keep O1 under wraps has sparked this whole debate about ownership and control in the AI world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got some people who are adamant that this type of knowledge, something this potentially powerful, should be freely shared, for the benefit of everyone.
Right. Knowledge is power or
Yeah.
whatever.
Exactly. While others argue that, hey, OpenAI has a right to protect its intellectual property, just like any other company, it raises all these questions about accessibility. Who gets to control these tools? Who gets to decide how they're used? It's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. And
Yeah.
it kind of feels like we're just at the very beginning of figuring all of this out. You know?
Oh, absolutely. We're just getting started.
This is like the Wild West of AI out here. So we've got the hardware revolution, the open source movement exploding, everyone and their mother trying to crack the code of OpenAI's secret weapon, and then these huge philosophical questions about the future of intelligence itself. I mean, where do we even go from here?
Well, that's the fun part, right? We get to find out. It really is amazing to think about. All this incredible AI tech is suddenly within reach. Makes you wonder, like, what does it actually mean for someone like you, who's obviously plugged into the AI world, right? Wants to stay ahead of the curve and all that.
I mean, it does feel like the barriers to entry are, like, crumbling, You don't need a PhD in machine learning anymore to actually build something cool with AI.
That's for sure. Take Gradio 5, for example. It's not just about the slick new interface, although I do love how clean it looks now, right? Or even the speed improvements, although, yeah, those are great too. The real game changer here is the AI playground. What do you think about that? Have you had a chance to play around with it yet?
Oh, yeah, I've been messing around with it. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It's like having this, like, AI co-pilot for building apps. You don't have to start from scratch anymore. You just drag, drop, connect the dots, and it's like the AI fills in the blanks.
It's pretty wild. I mean, it makes you realize just how far things have come in such a short amount of time.
It really does.
And then you've got Symphony.
Oh, don't even get me started on Symphony.
Seriously, the fact that you can just give it these plain language descriptions and it turns them into these full-blown automated AI workflows. I mean, come on. It's like something out of a science fiction movie.
It totally is. It's like having an army of AI bots at your command, and you're the conductor. You're just up there waving your little baton, and the Symphony's doing all the heavy lifting. And to think this is just the beginning. I mean, it blows my mind. The stuff we'll be able to build with these tools, like even a year from now, 2 years from now.
No doubt. It's exciting and also, maybe a little bit daunting.
How so?
Well, I mean, if these tools are already this powerful and this accessible, what does it mean for, the future of work, for example?
Oh, yeah. The robots are coming for our jobs.
Well, maybe, maybe not. But it's something to think about, right? Are we looking at widespread job displacement, or will AI mostly create new opportunities that we can't even imagine right now?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? And it's not just about jobs either. What about the ethical side of all this?
Oh, absolutely. The ethical considerations are huge. I mean, the more powerful these tools become, the more important it is to make sure that we're using them responsibly. We've already seen the issues with bias creeping into AI systems.
Oh, yeah.
We need to be talking about that, addressing those problems head on.
We can't just, stick our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. AI is powerful, and like any powerful technology, it can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to steer the ship in the right direction, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to be, steering the ship. Right. We're building the ship as we're, sailing it across the ocean.
That's a great way to put it. And that's why all these philosophical discussions we keep circling back to, they're so important. We need open and honest dialogue about both the amazing potential of AI and, like you said, the potential pitfalls, the ethical challenges. And it can't just be the same voices, right? We need to make sure that everyone's included in the conversation. Diverse voices, different perspectives, the whole 9 yards.
It can't just be all, Silicon Valley bros.
Exactly.
Speaking of Silicon Valley, there's been a lot of talk lately about OpenAI, and it's not all sunshine and roses.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely a bit of a divide forming in the AI world.
Yeah, what's with that? It seems like a lot of people in the open source community aren't too happy with OpenAI these days.
Yeah, there's a growing sentiment, especially among open source folks, that OpenAI is being way too secretive, like they're hoarding knowledge and technology that could benefit everyone if it were more accessible.
Especially when it comes to O1, right? They've been super tight-lipped about that whole thing.
Oh, totally. I mean, I get it. They're a business, they have their reasons, but it just fuels all the speculation and the reverse engineering attempts, right? Like the more secretive they are, the more people want to figure out what they're hiding.
It's like they're begging people to try and crack the code.
Right. But here's the thing. There's also this concern that their priorities are shifting, that they're becoming more focused on, commercializing their tech and less interested in pushing the boundaries of research through like true open collaboration.
I mean, they've got to make money, right? They've got investors to answer
Yeah.
to, and they've raised billions of dollars. There's pressure there.
Oh, absolutely. But it makes you wonder, are they missing an opportunity to truly advance the field as a whole, beyond their own bottom line?
It's a tough balance, right? Being a force for good in the world and, not losing your shirt while you're doing it.
For sure. And to be fair, we can't discount the significant contributions that OpenAI has made to the field.
Of course not. They've done amazing work.
Right. And it's not like they're the only ones innovating. There are brilliant minds all over the world, in research labs and universities and tiny startups. They're all pushing the boundaries, coming up with crazy new ideas.
And that's a good thing, right? Having all these different approaches, these different perspectives, that's how innovation happens, right? When you get people who think differently in a room together, amazing things can happen.
Exactly. It's like this big, global, collaborative effort to understand one of the most complex things we know of, intelligence itself.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
It's like we're all working on this giant jigsaw puzzle together.
That's a great analogy. We all have our own little piece to contribute. And speaking of this global effort, the rapidly evolving landscape of AI, there are a few other trends emerging that I think are worth putting on your radar, especially for someone like you who likes to stay ahead of the game. One of the big ones is this push for more efficient AI models.
Efficient. In what way?
Well, think about it. Memory usage, computational power, all that stuff, it's expensive.
Oh, yeah. Those electricity bills, right?
Exactly. And not everyone has access to, Google scale data centers.
True, true. So these AI models, they need to be a little bit more, slimmed down?
Exactly. We're seeing all this cool research into techniques like, quantization, model compression, all sorts of fancy words. But the basic idea is, can we make these AI models smaller, lighter, faster? Can we make them run on less powerful hardware without sacrificing performance?
So like lighter, faster AIs.
Exactly. It's about making AI more adaptable, more deployable in a wider range of contexts. Imagine running these powerful AI models on your phone, on your smartwatch, on those little Raspberry Pi computers that everyone loves to tinker with.
Oh, yeah. Those things are awesome.
Right. It's about democratizing access to AI, making it possible for anyone, anywhere to build and deploy powerful applications.
I dig it. So efficiency is a big trend. What else is on your mind?
Well, hand in hand with efficiency, you've got adaptability and robustness.
Adaptability and robustness. Okay. Break that down for me.
So traditional AI models, they can be a bit rigid,
Yeah.
They're trained on a specific data set, and if you throw something new at them, they kind of freak out.
You don't like surprises.
Not really. They're kind of one-trick ponies in a way.
One-trick ponies. I like that.
But the thing is, the real world is messy, right? It's constantly changing. So researchers are working on these new approaches, things like meta-learning, transfer learning. And the goal is to build AI models that can adapt to new information, new environments, AI that can learn on the fly.
So more like AI Swiss Army knives than one-trick ponies.
Exactly. You got it. And then robustness, that's all about making AI more resilient,
Right.
less prone to errors or vulnerabilities, especially when they encounter unexpected data or even like deliberate attacks.
Oh, right. Like if someone's trying to mess with them.
Exactly. Think about self-driving cars, for instance, or AI being used in medical diagnoses. Reliability is crucial, right?
Yeah, I don't want my AI doctor misdiagnosing me because it, encountered a data point it had never seen before.
Exactly. So researchers are developing techniques like adversarial training. Essentially, it's like training your AI to expect the unexpected, to anticipate attacks, and explainable AI, which is all about making the decision-making process of these AIs more transparent, more understandable.
So we don't just have to blindly trust the AI. We can actually, understand how it's thinking.
Exactly. It's about trust, but also about safety, fairness, accountability. We need to make sure these systems are designed and implemented in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've got efficiency, adaptability, robustness. We're building ourselves some well-rounded AIs. Anything else we should be wrapping our heads around? This is a lot to take in.
One more, and it's a big one. Multimodal AI.
Multimodal AI. That term keeps popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
It's about AI that can, process different types of data, right? Like not just text, but images and audio too.
You got it. Most AI models today, they specialize in one thing, right? They can handle text or images, but not both. But think about how we experience the world. It's through all of our senses, right?
Yeah.
A fusion of information. Multimodal AI, it aims to replicate that, to process and understand the world more like we do.
So instead of having like a separate AI for reading text, another one for looking at pictures, and another one for understanding what I'm saying, you would have one AI that can do it all.
That's the dream anyway.
Is that even possible?
It's a massive challenge for sure. It's one of the most complex problems in AI research, but we're making progress. Remember Aria, that open source model we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah, the one that was outperforming some of the big industry models.
Right. That's a great example of multimodal AI in action.
Very cool. But it sounds like it's still early days for this whole multimodal thing.
It is early, but the progress is really exciting. Imagine like a search engine that doesn't just understand your keywords, but actually understands the intent behind your search. Like it analyzes the images you click on, the videos you watch, or a virtual assistant that doesn't just respond to your voice, but it also shows you relevant stuff on your screen.
Oh, wow. Like it anticipates what you need before you even know you need it.
Exactly. It's about creating AI that's more intuitive, more helpful, more human in a way.
It's amazing, to see what's possible when you have all these smart people from different backgrounds, different parts of the world, all collaborating and sharing their knowledge openly, like with open source.
It's pretty awesome, right? The open source world is a beautiful thing. But we've been talking a lot about the potential of all this stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm as excited as anyone. But there's another side to this coin we should probably touch on, and that's the cost.
Ah, right. All this amazing AI doesn't come cheap, does it?
Not exactly. I mean, training these massive AI models, it takes a ton of computing power, like serious horsepower. We're talking about racks and racks of servers chugging away for days, weeks, sometimes even months on end.
Yeah, servers aren't cheap to run, especially with the price of electricity these days.
No kidding. And that's not even factoring in the cost of the data itself, right?
Yeah.
These AI models, they need to be fed massive amounts of data to learn effectively.
It's like feeding a bottomless pit sometimes.
It can feel that way. So for a lot of researchers, developers, especially, those who are just starting out or those who don't have a ton of funding, the cost can be a major barrier to entry.
It's like a pay-to-play kind of situation.
Sort of. But the good news is that there are some really clever people out there working on solutions to make AI more accessible, more affordable.
Oh, that's great. Like what?
Well, for starters, have you heard of this new tool called Batch GPT?
Batch GPT. No. What's that all about?
So it's this really cool tool that can help you reduce your OpenAI API costs, like significantly.
OpenAI API, like for ChatGPT and all that.
Exactly. You know how every time you send a request to the API, it costs money?
Oh, yeah. It can add up quickly.
Tell me about it. But Batch GPT, what it does is it lets you batch together multiple requests. So instead of pinging the API constantly, you send them all at once in one big batch.
Oh, that's actually really smart.
Right. And because OpenAI charges less for these larger batches, you end up saving a ton of money. It's a simple but super effective way to optimize your costs.
I'll have to check that out.
You should, definitely. It's a game changer, honestly. And then there are platforms out there like, RunPod, AWS. They're offering more affordable access to these powerful GPU clusters.
Those are like what do they call them? The workhorses of AI.
Exactly. The GPUs, they do all the heavy lifting, all the number crunching, and these platforms, they let you rent that power, So you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of expensive hardware. You can just rent it when you need it, which is a huge help, especially for like smaller projects or those just starting out.
So more options for those of us who don't have like Google-sized budgets lying around.
Exactly. And that's a good thing. I mean, the more accessible this stuff becomes, the more people can experiment and build cool things.
It's true. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Mm-hmm.
But even with all these cost-saving measures, AI can still feel like this really technical field.
Oh, yeah. It can definitely feel intimidating.
So for those of us who don't have a computer science degree, who aren't like coding wizards,
You're talking about me.
is there a place for us in the AI world? Like, can we still be a part of this whole thing?
Absolutely. You don't need to be a coding whiz to get involved with AI. There are tons of ways to participate, no matter what your skill set is.
Okay, so what about those of us who, like, barely passed high school computer science? What can we do?
Well, first of all, never underestimate the power of the internet. There are so many incredible resources available online, like platforms like Coursera, ADX, Khan Academy, you name it.
Oh, yeah, I love those websites.
Right. They offer these fantastic courses on everything AI related, from like the basics of what AI even is to, you know, the nitty-gritty of machine learning and deep learning. And a lot of them are free or very affordable.
So you can basically teach yourself AI from your couch.
Pretty much. And once you've got a handle on the basics, you can start experimenting with these user-friendly tools like Gradio 5 that we talked about earlier. Remember, you don't need to write a single line of code to build some pretty cool AI-powered applications.
That's good to know. I always feel like, as soon as I open up a code editor, my brain just turns to mush.
Oh, I hear you. I feel the same way sometimes. But there's more to AI than just coding.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, what about the ethical implications of all this stuff? The societal impact?
Right. AI isn't just a technology. It's changing how we live, work, interact with each other. It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and these are conversations that everyone needs to be a part of. So if you're interested in that side of things, there are tons of ways to get involved.
Rick, give me some ideas.
Well, you can support organizations that are doing really important work in this area, like the AI Now Institute, the Partnership on AI. These groups, they're researching, they're advocating for responsible AI development. You can volunteer your time, donate, even just like spread the word about their work. Every little bit helps.
That does.
And then there's always the power of, just having conversations with people. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues. Share what you're learning. Listen to their perspectives. These conversations are so important because they help us to collectively make sense of this crazy, rapidly changing world of AI.
It's true. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. We've got to engage with it. So yeah, even if you're not a coder, even if you don't know a thing about algorithms or neural networks, there are still tons of ways to get involved, to make a difference.
I love that.
AI is a team sport, It's not just for the engineers and the computer scientists. Everyone's invited to the party.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about tools. We've talked about trends. We even dipped our toes into the philosophical side of AI. What do you say we shift gears a bit now and dive into some more specific examples of what's happening out there in the AI world?
Let's do it.
It's funny. We could talk about this stuff all day, but it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes, right?
Wow.
There's just so much happening in the AI world all at once.
And it's changing so fast, too. What was groundbreaking yesterday is old news today, right?
Yeah, it's true. But that's what makes it so exciting. Speaking of exciting and maybe a little bit intimidating, I noticed in one of those Discord threads, there was a whole discussion about replicating OpenAI's O1 model.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It's like everyone's trying to figure out the secret recipe. Right?
Yeah.
But OpenAI is not giving up the goods. It's like trying to bake a cake without knowing what the ingredients are.
Right. It's a real head scratcher, especially with how tight-lipped OpenAI's been about the whole thing. I mean, have they even released a research paper on O1 yet?
I don't think so. It just makes everyone even more curious, Like, what are they hiding? It's like they're begging people to try and reverse engineer it.
I know. But hey, more power to them, right? It's a fascinating challenge trying to decode something this complex without a blueprint. Although there are always little clues out there if you know where to look.
Oh, totally. Like what kind of clues?
Well, there's all that talk about journey learning, for instance. Have you heard about that?
Vaguely. It's like the AI is learning as it goes, right?
Sort of. It's this idea that instead of being explicitly taught everything, it learns more through a process of trial and error.
Interesting. So it's kind of like figuring things out on its own.
Exactly. It's like giving a kid a bunch of building blocks and saying, go build a castle, but you don't give them any instructions, right?
And somehow they manage to build something amazing.
Right. And what's even more interesting is that it's learning how to learn more effectively. So it's like it's constantly getting better at solving problems it's never even seen before.
Okay. That is pretty wild. But doesn't it also feel like, I don't know, maybe a little bit dangerous?
What do you mean?
Well, if we're creating these AI systems that can learn and evolve on their own, how do we control them?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something that a lot of very smart people are thinking very hard about.
I hope so. Because the last thing we need is, like, a robot uprising.
I hear you. But look, it's not just about, preventing some kind of dystopian AI future. It's about understanding the implications of what we're creating, It's about asking those tough questions.
Like, what does it actually mean to create something that can think for itself?
Exactly. And what are our responsibilities to these creations? Do we treat them like tools, or do they deserve some level of moral consideration?
Whoa, now those are some big questions. I mean, are we even close to having answers?
I don't know if we'll ever have all the answers, but it's the questioning that matters, right? It's about having those conversations, debating the possibilities, both good and bad, and it's a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the quest to decode O1, which, let's face it, is probably going to keep people busy for a while.
Oh, yeah, I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg.
But before we wrap things up, I wanted to circle back to something you said earlier about the cost of all this AI stuff, because it can feel like it's only accessible to the big players,
Yeah.
the Googles, the Facebooks, the OpenAIs of the world.
I hear you. And to be fair, it's true that training these large language models can get really expensive. But here's the thing. There are also a lot of people working really hard to make AI more accessible and affordable.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Right. And I think we're starting to see some real progress in that area.
Like what kind of progress?
Well, for one, the open source community is amazing. I mean, they're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible, finding ways to do more with less. We talked about a few examples earlier, like Aria and GPT-NeoX. These are incredibly powerful models that anyone can use, completely free of charge. And the tools are getting better and easier to use all the time, too.
That's awesome. So you're saying that even if you're not a tech giant with deep pockets, you can still get in on the AI action.
Absolutely. And I think that's incredibly important because it means that the future of AI won't be dictated by a select few companies. It'll be shaped by everyone. People from all walks of life, from all over the world, all contributing their own unique perspectives and ideas.
Now that is a future I can get behind. Well, I think that about wraps things up for this deep dive. We've covered a ton of ground, from the latest hardware to open source development, the ethical implications of AI, and even the philosophical questions that keep us up at night.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has.
Yeah.
But the best part is it's just the beginning, right?
Absolutely. We're still in the early days of AI, which is both exciting and a little bit daunting.
No doubt. But one thing's for sure.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting ride.
That it will.
Well, on that note, a huge thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. We hope you've learned something new, or at least had your mind blown a few times. And until next time, stay curious.